Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Libra, Sun, Moon or Ascendant. For, quite frankly, now. There's a couple of reasons for that. The first being that I myself am under some considerable load at the moment, and rather than not turning up, I thought what we would do is have a look and see which stories are ending, in amongst other things, because as Neptune has already moved into Aries, we've got Saturn moving into Aries very, very soon. And yeah, moving into the area of effect of the Aquarius solar eclipse that will be happening on the 17th. Instead of looking forward at the monolith of volatility that I think this next period that we're moving into represents, certainly when I'm looking at it, it feels like that anyway. It might be better to take stock of where we are right now, right? And in the extended, we'll be looking at possible pitfalls, possible, shadow traps that we might be falling into, just to make sure that everything is, well, as shipshape and Bristol fashion as we can manage. And this also means that I show up and I don't turn myself inside out to produce the same kind of readings that I usually read. So I hope that that's okay with you. I mean, it's what's happening. So let's flip the camera around here. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off with 3 cards here. Where are you right now? I feel like this is possibly the most important of all of the questions that we could be asking ourselves, because with Neptune being so active as he is at the moment, there is a fog over everything, right? The certainty that we're looking for is absent. We've got Saturn, drowning away in the last degrees of Pisces, and then moving into a sign where well, he doesn't operate that well, right? So the kind of structure that we would usually rely on Saturn to provide is going to be missing. So let's take stock of what is real, what is here, what is right now. Then we will look at, with another 3 cards, how to move through the uncertainty of the moment. And then finally, we'll finish up with what story is done now. And I think that this is important because I think, in all honesty, it's going to be quite difficult for us to work out which stories are done and which ones we're supposed to be maintaining. So I think that that's quite important, personally. So we will go 5, 4, 3, fucking hell, 2, jumping all over the place, and 1. So where are you right now, Libra? Page of Swords, no, Wands, that is, King of Swords, and the Star. How to move through the uncertainty, Queen of Pentacles, Page of Swords, there he is, 6 of Swords, and what story is finished? 6 of Wands, 9 of Swords, 3 of Pentacles. Right, the 6 of Cups is at the bottom of the deck, which is definitely giving some kind of feeling of resolution to what is going on with you at the moment. The 6 of Cups can represent children, it can represent childhood, it can even represent things like past lives and stuff like that. But the most important part of this is we are talking about a period of time that is most definitely not now, or not even in the recent past either. As the shadow card that is sitting underneath all of these cards here, we could be talking to, and I think that we are, some level of attachment to an old version of ourselves. Old stories, old narratives, even things down to, old wounds, old traumas, old relationships. But let's start at the top here. Where are you right now? Page of Wands, King of Swords. The Star is actually a really, really strong presentation for the moment. The Page of Wands is about the initiatory step, or largely it's about the preparation for beginning some sort of new journey, right? And the King of Swords here feels like a commitment to undertake it. The Star card is somewhat abstract. I mean, yes, it does represent our highest hopes, goals, dreams, aspirations, and all those kind of things. It also represents the future and what might be coming over the horizon. But in a similar sort of way that we see with the moon, it's quite difficult to see the certainty of the moment. It is simply that there are many, many options and many, many worlds, many lives, many different ways in which what shows up in future may play out. What's quite interesting about this is the level to which you have, it seems, committed to following it. Page of Wands, getting ready for that. Right? It's actually quite a positive card, I think. It's the spirit of adventure, or preparing for an adventure. It's allowing our path to deviate from where we thought we were going. But the thing is here, Libra, there is a sense of you following your guiding star, which means you're kind of attached to something. Something is pulling you forward. And whilst you may not be able to see everything clearly, I think in a way that is actually quite impressive, you seem to have settled on what is yours to follow, yours to think, yours to control. And there's something quite strong about the way that you're showing up in your lane. Now, the King of Swords is your king. My goodness, everything in the room is all clicking on at once. My water heater and my actual heater, because it's so cold in here. Hopefully the microphone isn't picking that up too much. Page of Wands on its side. Two of Cups, the Strength card. There's the star at the bottom of the deck again. It represents the sign of Aquarius, which is where this solar eclipse is happening. And it might be worth looking to what is ruled by Aquarius in your chart, which says, which house is ruled by Aquarius. Because there's a sense of a journey getting ready to be undertaken here. Do you know where you're going? No. Do you have some sort of guidance system? Yes. But it's interesting that we've got this other, another Cups card showing up. Because this Strength card on the top of it, there's another card underneath that. Ah, there we go. This Strength card on the top, and indeed the Moon card underneath. It seems to be pointing to a realization that you have outgrown some people. Or maybe you have been carrying the relationship with some people. And it's quite ungrounded. Which is to say, it may well be rooted in history, because we've got the Six of Cups here. But they themselves are rooted to nothing, and you yourself are rooted to growth, right? You're trying to expand, you're trying to move up somehow. And what does this mean in practicality? Well, honestly, I think you're ready to leave some relationships behind. They're not honouring you and who you are at the core. They're not interested, it seems, in the authentic version of you. It's almost like you've realised that relationships are a mirror, Libra. And having come to that realisation, that relationships are a mirror, you've realised that some of these need leaving behind. I do not get a sense of there being some relationships that go with you on this one. Which is very interesting, because what I'm not getting either is any sense of guilt or worry about that. Which is absolutely fascinating, that there's more an alignment with the future and being like, okay, well, whatever comes, I'm going that way. Don't know where I'm going. Absolutely no idea where I'm going. But I'm going that way. And whatever's been being mirrored back to you of late, it's a recognition that you kind of moved beyond it, and it's time to come out from that obfuscatory energy of the moon. I think some of you are starting to see that although these relationships have been, rooted in history somewhere, that actually I don't want to say they're more effort than they're worth, because I don't think that's quite true. But they do very much represent the past, and they don't represent the future. To some extent, Libra, and this is a weird thing to say for such a sociable person as yourself, there's a feeling here that's coming off the cards that you'd rather go your own way and do it alone than have to carry a lot of these relationships that you have been carrying for the longest time. And I think that's the realization. You've realized that you've been carrying relationships, and all the while, the one thing that's been prevented, the thing that stopped your growth personally, is the fact that you've been unable to show up thoroughly as yourself. I think you're going to start surprising people really soon, Libra. I really do. Because I think the era of keeping the collective harmony for collective harmony's sake is done for you. Now, I'm not saying that necessarily this means you're about to start being, a warlord or anything like that. But I think that you're recognizing the value of short-term conflict over a longer-term harmony, right? When everybody gets the right to show up as themselves. There's something really almost forceful about how you're showing up right now, but it doesn't feel aggressive. It's not afraid of conflict, but it doesn't feel aggressive. And there's a lot here about dealing with facts, which is really interesting, Libra, because it seems like emotion has clouded everything up until this point, and there's a kind of clarity. It doesn't really tell you where you're going, it doesn't tell you what you're going to do, but the clarity of the moment is in the moment, which is there's been way too much emotion associated with this and this relationship, and if I look at it on facts, it turns into something else. And now I'm getting ready to do my own thing, which is absolutely fascinating. Now, the uncertainty of the moment to some extent then takes on a slightly different form for you, because, like I said, you are as unclear about what the future may hold as everybody else is. The difference is, though, you'll want to show up authentically as who you are, right? It's not about being with people for the sake of being with people. It's like, well, I'm showing up on my own, and if that works with people, that's great. If it doesn't, I'm quite happy to continue this path on my own, right? And to that extent, you're exceedingly clear. You notice that we don't have the Queen of Swords here, which is your card. You know, the feeling of kind of weighing up things and weighing up facts and testing for veracity and all these kind of things. It's like the decision's been made. The decision is done. And now it's about opening up to experiencing the world on, through an entirely different lens. Page of Swords for me is about mental expansion. It's about taking something that you already have and kind of scaffolding onto it so it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Like expanding your field of view almost. But there is a high level of discernment with the page. There has to be, because he's picking and choosing what information he thinks is important, which he's going to pass on to the knight, who then ultimately passes it on to the king and queen. I don't know, it feels like you've already set the scene. You set the stage. And so now it's like, with clear vision, with a kind of clean slate, what is around? Where are the opportunities? What is the path for me to follow? And it seems with this Six of Swords here that you are moving on from something, moving on from relationships almost certainly, but moving on from an almost nostalgic kind of connection to people that was held for purely that sake and that sake alone. Because this Queen of Pentacles is, as all the queens do, helping us weigh up things. And when the Queen of Pentacles shows up, she's not only interested in what she should invest in, but she's also taking stock of what is valuable around her at this point. You'll notice here that this Queen of Pentacles is actually pointing up to the moon up there. I mean, she may be pointing to this, but to my mind, she's looking at this moon up here. And it's quite interesting that we have the moon up here too. And she's saying, for far too long, value seems to have been predicated on the feelings around it. But having examined the feelings, we're like, there's nothing underneath it. It's ungrounded. Right, there's nothing attaching it to earth, if you will. And so as she's weighing up what things are valuable and what things are not, I think emotion comes into the equation a little less than it has done up until this point. It seems like a lot is based on the not potential, not the feelings, not the feelings from somebody else, but what is real and what do I want to invest in to make more of, to get bigger. Like the movement here is huge. And this Page of Swords, like I said, is really thinking about things in a very expanded way. But it's all rooted in this, what has value for me moving forwards? What is rooted in reality? What actually has a value that I can enumerate that isn't emotional? To it, the real uncertainty is where this ends up, right? Where this goes. I don't feel necessarily that you're nearly as uncertain as one might assume from the energies of the moment. I've been talking in the weekly energy readings that I've been doing over the last few weeks about the importance of staying in one's lane. Now, that, might have sounded a little bit abrasive to people when there's so many things going on that we need to be worried about and concerned about, and yeah, like I get that situational awareness is important, but what I mean by staying in your own lane is like recognizing what is under your control and what's not, like what you actually get a say in and what you don't. And here, this Queen of Pentacles, Page of Swords, they seem very much focused on what is mine to control, what actually brings an inherent value to me, like what can I work with, what can I plant my value system on such that that tells me what the next move is. That's it. That's all I need to know, just the next move. And being open to the way that things change in front of me as I expose myself to new information, right? From this rather narrow viewpoint. Like if you try and go wide in scope, and I think you've worked this out for yourself, Libra, if you try and go wide in scope and try and take in all of the information that is around you at the moment and plan accordingly, you just sit there in a state of overwhelm. If you focus purely on what is yours to control, what is yours to invest in, what is important to you, then suddenly it's not that everything becomes clear, but we've got one step, the next step. And honestly, at that point, at this point, that is really, really important. So we come on to what story is finished here. And this is fascinating because not only do we have, again, the presence of other people with the Three of Pentacles, and what it is that one has been trying to build with someone else, because the Three of Pentacles is all about cooperation and partnership, teamwork, that sort of thing, right? Things that Libras, quite frankly, really like, right? But there seems to have been an awful lot of mental energy expended in trying to get something off the ground, or even, maintaining something that is off the ground, maintaining a level of success in things, which, let me pull another card for that. It doesn't feel like it's yours, Libra. Five of Swords reversed. Interesting. A lot of air energy on this reading for you. Ace of Swords. Wow. Look at this. We have the Ace of Swords reversed, the Five of Swords reversed, and to some extent, like they operate in fairly similar ways. Well, they don't, but for the purpose of this reading, they're sort of pointing to the same thing. It's like the dominant energy of this year is fire. Well, dominant element is fire. The dominant planet is Mars, really, right? Mars is doing all the here, there, and everywhere, and agitating and stoking and all that kind of thing. But the sign that's probably got, outside of the nodes, the sign that's got the most influence is definitely Aries. And Aries isn't really that interested in working with other people, right? It's across the axis from you. Libras are, by definition, always trying to keep a lot of people happy. Maybe even try to keep one person happy, right? But Aries is is concerned with setting off on his own. Now, you need to check which house Aries rules for you. Obviously, it's going to be opposite wherever your sun is. So if you're a 6th house sun, then Aries is going to be your 12th house, for example, right? But I think for a lot of you, it feels like you were either fooling yourself or you realise the extent to which you've been capitulating to somebody else's will. And this feels like a very Aries-like realisation and a very Aries-like, no, thank you. Fuck that. I'm not doing that. Going to go do something else. Because the Ace of Swords here is the way that you were deceiving yourself, that this was something that you wanted with someone else. So it doesn't have to be a romantic partner. It can be, a business partner. It can be within a friendship group, within a family situation, right? You know, don't make it fit, but take where it resonates to you. The thing is, I feel like the warning bells have been ringing on this one for quite a long time. We've got the 5 of Pentacles down there and the 9 of Swords. It's like there's been a lot of mental energy gone into this. But essentially, you were giving to this and depleting yourself in the process. This is the thing that you've come to the realization of, I feel. So we're unpicking the ways in which it was kind of wonky thought patterns that got you to where you were. Thinking that you were quite content with the way that things were going, but actually that wasn't true. But also, to some extent, the way that you've been overpowered by somebody else in this. And somehow you managed to convince yourself that this was what you wanted. Particularly if it was the long-term success of something that you have been dealing with for a long time, right? Remember that we're talking about what story is finished, what narrative is finished, what set of circumstances is done now. This very much has the feel to it of somebody who has seen the truth and now cannot unsee the truth. Suddenly, like that next step forward, feeling very, very obvious. The 9 of Swords for me is a card of losing perspective. It feels like you lost yourself in the middle of somebody else's story, and somehow, just recently, you just rediscovered yourself again. Feels like it's not my dream. Yeah, it was never my dream. Now I'm going after my dream. And to be honest, your dream is simply to experience life on your own terms. That's it. I mean, there may be other things that run alongside that, but in terms of the next step, it's got to be about you. I like this positioning, Libra, I'll be honest, because I don't feel like this is a long-term position for you. I don't think you're going to turn into an Aries and then that's it. You know, the diplomacy, the bridge, the scales, right, the sociability and whatnot. Like, it will all come back when you have found your spot, but this hasn't been your spot. It hasn't. And you can't do all the heavy lifting. And it feels like there's been a disproportionate amount of heavy lifting that's come from you. And it's come at the expense of yourself. So what's going on here is almost like a shake to reposition everything. And actually, like Libra, I really like this. I actually do really like this for you. Because it feels like you're coming out of something much, much stronger. Simply because you recognise that it is within your power to say no, to have boundaries, and to go, actually, I'm quite happy to do things on my own terms now. It almost feels like you're coming out of this state of feeling like the support in somebody else's story, right? Somebody else is the hero of your story, and you're like, I get to be the hero in my own. Like, just ahead of Saturn moving into Aries, I think that that's absolutely fucking fascinating, personally. And like I said, I don't think it's a long-term situation, but it's a reorganisation that was necessary. A little shuffling of everything straight. And everything's going to feel very different from here on out, but I think that you have given yourself exactly what you needed to weather that just ahead of it happening, which feels like a really good thing to me. So, in honour of the fact that I am doing slightly shorter readings for this period, I am going to leave now. I'm going to head off to the extended. If you want to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. We're going to look at potential pitfalls, shadow traps. We're going to look at advice to help navigate through this, things to pay attention to, things to not worry about too much. We'll pull an oracle card from the Spiral Oracle. But this is, as a positioning goes, this feels really solid to me, Libra, and I think you should be pleased with yourself. I think you kind of are pleased with yourself. The era of you not giving to yourself is done. Something very different is starting to emerge here, and I'm all about that. That's fantastic. So, know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.